Welcome to the Kindred Spirit Show. I'm your host, Hannah Mary, and I'm so glad to be here with you, my friends, today. I am a homeschool guru and mommy motivator, wife, daughter, sister to 4, and mama to 3. I help women succeed at their most meaningful job, motherhood. I believe you can have joy, clarity, and purpose in your home and schedule, that you have the capacity to raise your children like no one else. Let's make our motherhood a little more meaningful today. Happy Tuesday, friends. I am so excited today because it is my favorite time of the year. It is fall. It is official. The weather is starting to cool down, and I am here for it. I'm just so excited about fall. I'm super extra when it comes to seasons. My life is basically organized into seasons. I have decor for my entire house that's like fall decor, and then I have Christmas decor, and then winter decor. You see what I'm saying? I am super extra, and I basically classify everything in my life into like seasons. But today I want to talk about one of my other favorite things combined with my love of seasons, and that is reading. I am a total book nerd. I'm in the middle of building more bookshelves because I have so many books that I literally have piles of books sitting in boxes because they have nowhere to go. So more bookshelves are being added to my house because I need them. Part of that is just a being raised as a book lover thing. Part of that is because I just like obsessively collect them. It's probably a problem, but when all of technology ends and you can no longer get a podcast, I will have all the books that you could possibly read, and you'll thank me. That's my theory anyway. With all of that said, I want to share with you today my must-read list for fall for family reading, first of all. So we do family reading time in the evenings a lot during the fall and winter seasons. We like to sit and be cozy when it is getting dark outside earlier and earlier. And so we will sit down, and usually we all have tea or cocoa or something, and I read a chapter or two aloud from a book. So I thought I would share with you what we have read, are reading, things I would suggest you read as a family if you're going to do reading time like that. We prioritize reading above screens in our house on purpose because we want to expand our kids' horizons, and screens don't do that. Our kids do still roll their eyes every once in a while. They don't feel like reading sometimes when we're like, yeah, we're going to read tonight. But they get over it, they come around, and we just keep going. And we've really enjoyed reading like this family style in the evenings. So here are my top picks for family reading nights. Here we go. Number 1, Little Women. If you haven't read this book, then you know nothing about it. None of the movies do it any justice. I have to say that as a mother reading this book, it has influenced me in how I handle certain areas of parenting and child rearing. I read it in high school and I didn't really love it. It didn't really faze me, but as a mom, I reread it a couple years ago and it was amazing. I felt like I was reading like the best self-help book, and I just wanted to highlight everything. I consistently posted quotes from it on my Facebook and Instagram and all that because it was just like life-changing for me. So I love this one as a family read because you can kind of talk about some of those themes and ideas. I think that would have helped me as a teenager to talk through it instead of just reading it on my own. And we're actually reading this one right now. It's our current family reading night book, and it's been really, really good. We've had great discussion around it. If you read Little Women and you love it, I highly recommend the sequel, Little Men. And as always, I will link all of these books in the show notes so you can find them. Little Men is so good. It has good character building stories. It talks a lot about the tension between boys and girls too, which is really fascinating and interesting to look at it from that perspective. I really love it. So my second pick is the one that you may have seen coming. It is Anne of Green Gables. What some people don't know is that there is actually a whole series of Anne books, and you get to kind of grow up with her, see her have kids, all of that. So I highly recommend not only Anne of Green Gables because it is a classic coming of age tale with lots of lessons on people and friendship and how to deal with growing up, but also I highly recommend the rest of the series. All of these would be great to do. Maybe just work your way through the series. Great books. But if you have to pick one, then obviously the first one, Anne of Green Gables, is the winner. And it's a really good one to read with your kids. Book number 3 on my list is Little House in the Big Woods. I'm sure you've all heard of Little House on the Prairie, but Little House in the Big Woods is actually the prequel to Little House on the Prairie. It talks about their family and where they come from. And for me, this is a quintessential fall and or holiday book. There's this big, beautiful scene in the book where they go to the grandparents for the holidays and there's snow, and it's just very descriptive of the experience of going to Grandma and Grandpa's and being together for the holidays as a family. It is very seasonal. It is very cozy and comfy to read. It's fun and it's funny. There's a couple of stories in it that are definitely time period stories that our kids thought they were hilarious. We greatly enjoyed reading this one. We have read Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie, and Farmer Boy. We are on to, I believe, the banks of Plum Creek, House on the Banks of Plum Creek, something like that. Those are other books in the series, and we will probably finish the entire series with our kids. We love the Little House series. Highly recommend all of them, but for me, Little House in the Big Woods is just really engaging, especially for younger kids. So even Aiden, who's only 5, our little guy, he sat through part of this book last year when we read it and really enjoyed it. It's very vivid in its description of the events going on and the seasons, and I just love that. I highly recommend Little House in the Big Woods, especially if you have a mix of readers that are older and younger and you want to keep the attention span of more than just like a 9-year-old or a slightly older child. Use this book because the imagery in it is fabulous. My 4th pick is Stuart Little. This book, if you haven't read it, it's nothing like the movie, really. The movie has more of a cohesive storyline. The book is more of a collection of stories. It's a really good one, again, if you have kids who range in age a little bit. This book is just fun. It's interesting. My kids love it. Our oldest read this book like 800 times. We had to finally tell her that she had to pick something else to read. Like, okay, you've read this book, you should have it like memorized by now. Let's pick a new one. So it's a really good one. It's fun to read out loud, and it's not a hard read at all. It is very vocabulary friendly to a wide audience, and it is a pretty quick read. I think we did Stuart Little in like, I want to say a month, which is really pretty quick because we don't read every single night. We don't always get through more than one chapter, and so it went pretty quick. And much like the other books on this list, if you love this book, there are 2 others by the same author, not connected at all as far as the storyline goes, but also great classics, very good. E.B. White wrote Charlotte's Web and Trumpet of the Swan. Very good classic children's books. So if your family is a big fan of Stuart Little, maybe try the other E.B. White books because they're fabulous. And Trumpet of the Swan is probably the least known out of the 3, but honestly, if we're gonna, tell each other our opinions and secrets, I think it's the best one. It is a fascinating story. I highly recommend it. And it doesn't necessarily feel like fall to me to read it, but it's a really, really good book. Major fan of Trumpet of the Swan, more so even than Stuart Little or Charlotte's Web, though I love them. So, number 4, Stuart Little. My number 5 pick for reading all together as a family is The Chronicles of Narnia. Now, I always encourage this series for families with older students. So if your kids are like 9 and older, 10 and older, then I think that this would be a good series to go through. It goes over the head of younger kids a bit. There's a lot of allegory. There's a lot of broad topics in very British terms because C.S. Lewis was a British writer. So there are some things that, because of culture, your kids are not necessarily going to get if they're younger. So I definitely recommend this for older kiddos. If you have, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, anywhere in that age range, I would say that's an okay range to start reading this series in. There's something really powerful, though, about reading these books out loud. I will warn you, if you're the one, doing the reading out loud, that's what I do. I read out loud for the family. It's my role when we sit down to read together like this. I seriously would just start crying in the most seemingly random places, but it was just because the story was touching me so much in those areas. There's so much depth to these stories. And so because they're really powerful like that, just be prepared. My husband and I actually read these out loud, just the two of us, a while back. And I'm a very visual person, so I devour books. But my husband does better with audiobooks or auditory learning. And so it was a really sweet, nice way to be able to connect because I could read it, see it, and he could hear it, and we were reading it together. And it was just really fun. It was not so fun when he would make fun of me for tearing up randomly when reading it out loud, but it was really fun to do that together. And it was great because both of us being adults, we could have a little bit deeper discussion over the principles in the book versus what we have with our kids. Not that we don't discuss ideas, but again, with age, you gain more wisdom, or you should, and so we could discuss them on another level. And it was a really sweet way to connect. So maybe you aren't to the stage of reading aloud with your kids yet. Maybe you are an empty nester, or maybe your kids just were terrible today and you sent them to bed early. Dig out a book and read it with your spouse because that connection is incredible as well. I'm here to give you the best news of your entire year. The doors to my signature course, How the Heck to Homeschool, just opened. This course is jam-packed with the 4 pillars of what you need to homeschool successfully, how to have a homeschool mindset, the answers to all of your frequently asked questions and objections, how to do it legally and correctly for you in your state, and how to build your homeschool for your family from the ground up. Perfectly aligned with your values, your vision, and the education your children need. The doors are open, but they won't be for long. Head to howthehacktohomeschool.online today to sign up. This course will change your life in the best way possible. So I know that family reading time can seem a little bit odd or daunting because we're so used to crashed in front of a TV, or we do other things separate from one another, or our schedules could be really odd. I think that it's important to make time for this togetherness and this connection, and I really love doing that over books with our family. However, I realize that is only one way that you're going to be exploring books in your home and with your kids, and you may want them to be doing some reading on their own. I know I do, and we have a standing rule that they have to read in order to get other things they want in the day. So I wanted to chat about that as well, what you can add to their list for fall, what you could put in front of them that would be good for them to be reading. So I want to talk about older students first. So I would say starting around age 8 or 9 and then going older. The books I already listed are really, really great reads and fairly easy for that level. So I would say they could definitely read any of those on their own as well. We keep on hand book report pages that I just found a book report page I liked on Pinterest that has basic summary of details from the book on it for them to fill in, and I keep a stack of those for our oldest, so anytime she completes a book, if she fills in one of the book report pages for that book, then we have a little bonus prize that she gets. If you're looking to bolster your 8 to 9-year-olds and maybe a little bit older's list of what they can be reading this fall, I highly recommend The Wind in the Willows, Frog and Toad books. Those were my brother's favorite for forever. They're really fun. The Felicity series from the American Girl books. These are really great because they're set in the American Revolution, East Coast, New England area. So you kind of get a really good feel of like the boggy weather and just things that I would naturally associate with like Thanksgiving. They're a really great series. I highly recommend those ones. And then also the Mandy series is phenomenal. My sister and I used to read these books with my mom. She would read them aloud to us at night. We made it through all of the books. There's like 40 of them. It's a fabulous series. Highly recommend. If your kids are a little younger and you want to read something with them, they aren't quite to the point where they're reading on their own, I would highly suggest starting with baby lit books, storybooks. These books are simplified versions of classic books like Little Women, Pride and Prejudice, and just a ton of them. They have so many. We own the Little Women one. It's super cute. The illustrations are gorgeous, and it's just the basic like outline of the book, the basic framework of the story, and then from there you can obviously introduce the actual full unabridged adult version of the book as they get to that point where they can read. Basically, reading these storybooks helps them to be endeared to the characters and the story, and then you can give them the full story and they can start grasping other concepts within it. Another fall favorite for me is Cranberry Thanksgiving. This book, it is quintessential and lovely and warm, and there's a recipe in the back of the book. There is nothing better than a storybook that comes with a recipe, in my opinion. And whenever we read this book, we try to read it every year because I love it so much. I force it upon my children. We usually make the recipe at least once, and I could eat it every time we read the book. It is so delicious. It's such a good recipe. Yes to all the books with the recipes. I am down for that. So, Cranberry Thanksgiving, definitely a fan favorite at our house. It is my favorite book for smaller children for fall, for sure. Now, if you have really, really little ones, like a 7th-month-old, like we have right now, I have a couple of board books that I really like for fall, and I usually read them quite a bit during the fall season when we have littles. So the first one is called Fall by Chris L. Demarest, and again, I will link all of these books in the show notes for you, so you aren't like, where do I find this? You will be able to get straight to it. So Fall is just this sweet little 1 word per page board book. It's very colorful, very fun, just a really, really nice little book that kind of has things from fall in it. So there's like a pumpkin and leaves, and there's bright colors, and the children in the book are wearing, their lawn sleeves, and so it's just a good little kind of intro to the season. My second pick for the very littles is The Very Quiet Cricket by Eric Carle. The book is super fun, and we have our windows open a lot during change of seasons. We are like big on, if the window can be open, let's have it open, fresh air in the house. Yeah. So we can listen to the cricket sound at the end of the book, because the whole point is that he's very quiet, and then at the end he can make his crickety noise, and then we can listen for crickets out the window. And it's just a fun sensory way to kind of bring in the outdoors. So love that one so much. My third pick for very, very littles would be Prayer for a Child. It is a really, really cute little book. It's kind of an alternative prayer to the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep prayer. The way the book is written is really sweet, and it has a lot of gratitude in it, which I really like. I'm big on teaching thankfulness to our kids, so this is one we have in board book form, and it is a favorite of mine to read with my kids when they're little. A couple tips on reading with your kids. Do it often. Do it even when you don't feel like it. It will be their biggest and best memories, your voice, reading that book to them. And also, don't be afraid to say, tonight we're not doing a movie night. Tonight we're going to read. Don't be afraid to make a big deal about it. Guys, we're talking, I pull out popcorn for reading night. Who needs a screen? And we make hot cocoa or tea or whatever. It is important that our children hear great literature. And I think fall is the perfect time to sit down with a book and just breathe. Let the family gather around and enjoy your time together. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening today. I hope you found a little encouragement from today's topic. If you like this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe to it. If you absolutely loved this episode, leave a review. I love reading what you guys have to say about the show. I appreciate your support so much. You can find more from me at foreverkindredspirits.com, including the show notes from this episode, free downloads, and online courses. If you want to join the conversation, you can find the Kindred Spirits Show Facebook group in the show notes for this episode. I will see you next week. I'm always rooting for you.